Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the World Below rules by Onyx Path Publishing. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. Strong language, underground tunnels, and chaos lurks around every corner. All content, including names, places, events, spells, and etc., which may bear resemblance to entities living or dead, is strictly coincidental. My name is Michael Diamond, and for tonight's game, I will be your storyteller. Thank you for joining us again in another episode of the Old Ways podcast. I am your story guide today for this episode of The World Below, a Onyx Path Publishing Kickstarter. And so if you're joining us as part of their Kickstarter, or if you've heard the stuff that our friends at Red Moon Roleplaying did and want to check out what we're having to offer in regards to this, we're happy to have you. And we're hopefully going to be entertaining and somewhat educational. And so I have 3 players with me today. We're going to go through introductions. And then after introductions, we're going to turn around and learn a little bit more about how the characters were created, the selections that were made, and then we'll talk about how they all work together or possibly don't. That is the fun of what we'll find out. So we'll start with introductions to my right.
Hey, it's me, Miranda, and I will be playing Breen today as my character.
Fantastic. Go ahead, Nate.
Hi, it's your friend Nate. Today I'm playing Cursed Aldo Pelopaz, a hobgob from Ariasis.
Interesting. And last but most certainly not least.
Hi, this is Allie, and I am playing Nemia, an elf from Trollver's Hearth.
Interesting. So as part of the World Below character creation method, there's some choices that get handed out to players as they go through and create their character in the World Below. It's a little bit different than some of the other character creation methods we've used on the show before. And so what we're going to do is step through each character so you learn a little bit more about them. And so Breen, or Miranda, who plays Breen, if you could give us a rough explanation of some of the choices that you made and what they are.
Yeah, so my concept for Breen is that Breen's a curious cartographer that heals the sick and injured and communes with the cave fungi. So for Breen, I took Anticia as my ancestry. Anticia are egg-laying, cold-blooded reptiles. So isn't that fun? But I also took the Myceli dialectic. So I commune with the fungi, I'm one with the fungi, and like to think of myself as a combination of the two. So maybe this reptilian creature that has spent so much time in the dark, damp corners of the world below that I have fused in some way with the Myceli. And it would make sense that I've spent so much time down here because I am part of the guild of the union of the cartographers and stratographers. So I spend my time traveling a lot, quite a bit, through the world below, mapping things out. I really am driven to travel the breadth of the geological strata here, especially to see all of Golthon's glory, because that's my church, my dogma, the Church of Golthon. I want to discover lost or unknown lore relating to the world below, but also as part of the Church of Golthon, I want to heal the sick and injured, provide food to the hungry. I'm also a farsighter. That's my calling. And so some people would describe us as diviners or empaths, or maybe even use the P word, paladin. I know. So they really try to commune with the world below, which we are all a part of.
All of us, indeed.
Anything else you want to know about my character, Mike?
No, I think what would be probably helpful, just as people might be cracking into the world below for the first time, when you talk about a character's dogma, right? Realistically, it's a series of beliefs that they have. And so that's important to set aside. That's one part of character creation where you select sort of what they believe and what group they're a part of. And then I like the idea that dialectic is something a little new to people. It's really more, in my mind, how the world below has changed you, the person, and sort of fused into the character. How would you explain dialectic?
Yeah, it's a way of how we interact with and feel spiritually about the world below. And so for Myceli, some people kind of shy away from the fungus of the world below, but not me. I embrace it. I mean, think about the network, the sheer network of knowledge and experiences that are spread and connected all throughout the world below through the fungi that inhabit here.
Certainly. Your calling as Farsighter is really the role that you play amongst your community in the world below, right? So I think that is something that as we see the other characters, we'll probably see some differences there. You have a complementary of other abilities as well. We'll sort of push some of those a little bit until a little later on. As for Breen, can you give us an idea of maybe what the pattern of your scales might be? What color? Are there any interesting attributes about Breen that would call out to our characters?
So Breen has like very dark green scales, but it's hard to see them through the browns and the sometimes reds and yellows of the Myceli that grow between and through her scales along her back and covering her shoulders and even starting to creep over onto her chest. She does wear kind of this dark cloak, but she's ventilated the back of it because your fungus got to breathe.
Right. I'm kind of wondering, like under that cloak and under her shoulders, is that maybe where you get the almost greenhouse effect that sort of pumps up the ability for them to spread?
It's moist in there. Yeah. It's damp.
Fantastic. Okay, so I would like to turn, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nate, but is Aldo cursed? Because that certainly seems like what I keep hearing.
It's a title.
Okay.
And the title comes from his people in Ariasis, where he comes from Ariasis, but he follows the dogma of the Hades Tract. The Hades Tract is a dogma belief system that relies on purging the undead, dissuading people from ascent, putting the dying to rest, healing, things like that. And growing up and Aldo developed his own belief systems, what was seen by his people in Ariasis is that didn't seem to happen for Aldo well. It didn't happen. He would go out to achieve maybe a cleansing, a purging, get rid of a zombie infestation, a skeleton, whatever it was. And that never seemed to work. And it always seemed to result in ridiculousness or chaos, or not chaos with a C, not the uppercase chaos of this system. And his people eventually saw, this is cursed Aldo. Every time he tries to achieve these goals, it fails. And that title sort of followed him as he left and journeyed on to find his own fortune and fame. And it was a little bit of a misnomer, as the reason that always failed and why those undead did not get purged and cleansed is Aldo follows a different belief in what it means to purge and cleanse undead. And this is a sort of a heresy within the dogma of the Hades Tract. But I very much believe that the undead that infest the world are not there to be purged. They're there to be used. And our goal and our mission within the Hades Tract is to understand that better and to channel that energy forward.
Okay. You said he's a hobgob, yes?
Mm-hmm. I stand about 4.5 feet tall, reddish skin, not scaly, but definitely rough, hairless, except a little bit on my head. But I'll tell you what, no one's going to see the hair that's on my head because I run a fairly successful vegetarian food stall within the city center. And part of my marketing and appeal and charm as I run that food stall is the hat that I wear, that I've adorned with a number of, they're all fake, but they look pretty good. Paste and costume jewelry and decorations and glitter. I always wear a similar or same hat. I've gone through 5 or 6. They do take a beating, but as I run my food stall. I know that my customers appreciate and look for Aldo adorned with the toadstool gem cap, and that is also on the name of the food cart that I run.
Okay, so you're a little flashy then, just to get people's attention, maybe, or to draw people to your amazing food at the cart.
Mm-hmm. It is. I would say it's. It might be something expected of Hobgobs. I mean, we do like the finer things, and those of us who can afford the actual real finer things, God bless them, or whatever that would be appropriate in our world. I cannot. So I adorn myself with fake finery, and it's just as good.
Now, in character creation, I heard something, perhaps on the wind, or perhaps by some strange messenger from the Well of Chaos itself. I heard that perhaps there is a secret you are hiding. Is that true?
It's true. I run the vegetable food cart. It's a simple provider of food to the hungry masses. I'm happy to see my customers walk away satisfied. That is my life. And that is true. You know, there's no fakery and there's no manipulation within that. But when I do go home to my small apartment block at the end of the day, a lot of times I might make my way to the basement of that apartment block, shift aside a piece of the wall that I have sort of cunningly made into a hidden compartment door, and begin my night work. And my night work is a little bit different. As I said, I have a belief system that the ambient chaos around us does imbue the undead with an energy, and it is our mission to extract and understand that energy. And so I believe that there's a way and a device that I can build to help extract that energy. And I'm busily working on it. And I chose this location because it is a hotbed of ambient chaos. It's almost crisscrossing ley lines, and that atmosphere felt appropriate for my mission. And so when I go down into my workshop and I approach the revenant that I have bound there, I begin again each night the work of attempting to extract from it its essence and imbue simple physical objects with the power contained within.
Fantastic. I love that for the community that you're in, which we'll get to momentarily. But before we do, I would like a rundown from our final seat at the table, and that's Allie. So Allie, tell us about the World Below character you've made, and let us know all you can about them.
So I'm playing Nemia, and she is an elf from Telver's Hearth. The way that I would describe myself is a herald of bugs. I can call bugs to me, and I can more or less understand what it is that they need. I belong to the dogma of the Lords and Ladies of Rot, and this is particularly a good calling because bugs are kind of the beginning and end of a life cycle. So it's much easier to connect with anything monstrous or anything simple because of the way a life cycle works.
Okay. I can see that. Yes. It's clear that the world below is full of the tinier creatures of existence, and they help move things along. So certainly acceptable. So what guild did Nemia claim as the one she would serve?
The Artificer. And the reason that she specifically chose to be part of the Artificer is that being able to understand how other aspects of the world below interact with things that are alive helps provide a bigger picture of the calling that she has, which is also a Farsighter.
Oh, so we have two Farsighters in the group.
We do. And the things that Nemia specializes in is seeing not necessarily so great future time periods, and also periods of time in the past. And with those two things, it makes it much easier to understand the present and how everything is supposed to function.
Interesting. Okay. So visually speaking, if you could give us an idea of what she looks like.
She's very round. She is probably like 5'8", but she weighs a lot more than an average individual would, but that's because she doesn't necessarily always get up and walk around as much as she should. She has smaller creatures that can kind of scout for her, and that makes it also very easy for her to be able to tell where enemies or threats are, because if she can send those out to determine them, then she can also dispatch the threat from a further range if absolutely necessary.
Okay. So given that you're all Farsiders, I think then this entrance into the world below for our audience should be fairly interesting. So before we set you on the path of exploration, of delving into the depths of the world below, I think what's important is we turn one more time back to Miranda and have Miranda tell us how she has a connection to Aldo and how she has a connection to Namia.
What does Aldo use in his vegetarian cart? Because I feel like we've had some conversations about this before. Because if it's mushrooms...
Of course, it's mushrooms. There's a lot of mushrooms in the world below.
Yeah.
A lot of foodstuff mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
They're not sentient mushrooms, of course, Breen. There's a whole difference between the sentient fungi and foodstuff fungi.
It doesn't feel right.
A lot of onions, a lot of potatoes, a lot of spices.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of spices. I have a whole bandolier of spices that I wear at all times.
Yeah.
And it's part of the secret to why my mushrooms taste so. You should try, Breen. It's not, you should try it. You should try this curry.
Breen,
Try it.
Shivers a little bit.
It's not spicy.
That is how Breen knows Aldo Pelopaz is. I've been traveling, mapping out obviously the world below with my set of partially finished maps, which I write many lies on so that people that if anyone stole my maps, they wouldn't know what was actually the truth and what was like fake on there. But I've stopped here for a short period of time, and that's when I came up across Aldo. And on a regular basis, I stop by and just try to have a conversation with Aldo about maybe reducing the amount of mushrooms that he's using in foods, because really it's not fair. Or I mean, would you eat a baby person? Like, no, would you eat a hobgoblin? No. Just maybe we just focus on actually, eating a baby might be fine. So that's I keep having these regular interactions with Aldo about his choice of ingredients.
Okay, fair enough. So tell me how then you would know Namia, the other Farsider.
So the other Farsider in the group, I like to think that we have seen each other not in person. I feel like we have had visions of each other when we've been farsighting, and that we both kind of were drawn like magnets to this same point where we met.
I have that magnet point, don't you worry. So I guess then I would ask Aldo, we have a rough idea of how you're connected with Breen, clearly. How are you connected with Namia?
I spent a couple months trying to perfect and practice and perfect a sorcery called Animal Spy. And Animal Spy is a sorcery that would allow me to see and visualize the world through the senses of an animal. I was not good at it. I failed miserably, but the mechanism by which I did most of that practicing was through the cockroaches that I wouldn't say infest, cohabitate with us within our food carts and underground and some of the other bugs, but mostly the large screeching cockroaches. They're somewhat intelligent and they're sort of, they're easy to handle and they're plentiful. And I remember after a few weeks of this, a new customer approached my food booth while I was engaged in, and the problem with the animal spy practice that I was failing miserably and I never perfected is it did kill the bugs off. And there was a fair amount of large scale devastation within the community around my food cart while this was happening. And I believe that Nemia and I met maybe sort of through that. I had a feeling that I was going to talk to someone that day that was going to help me with my animal spy work. I met Nemia. The help provided was actually a very clear determination that I should stop trying to learn this and do something else, and which I did agree with because Nemia was very convincing. And I think maybe I see Nemia walking through the square sometimes and wave, and there's maybe a somewhat friendly, or at least a knowing relationship between us. I don't know. Nemia, do you ever purchase any curries from me? Mushroom chowder?
Probably curries, as long as you don't notice that I might add some bugs to it for extra crunch, because they're just not as good without it.
Interesting. So I'm going to give you a little bit of narrative here that will set our stage. A couple of weeks ago, the community that you are a part of, we'll call it the Rocks Den. It's called the Rocks Den because it is a smoothed out bowl portion of a larger cave system that has been utilized here in this section of the world below for probably the past, in effect, 2 to 3 months. The community that you're a part of tends to move a little bit more than normal, which is perfectly fine for all of you, given the fact that you're interested in exploration. It works out very well for Aldo because he can get different spices and different ingredients as he moves along. And clearly, because the community has to move, things which need to be, well, just say cleaned up or brought to their final rest is great for Nemia because she can serve her purpose as, well, only someone with her calling can. Unfortunately, the community, after moving into this area, is beginning to experience some food trouble. Resources are being spent a little too quickly. It's really, Aldo, you're the first one to notice. And you notice because in the past, say, week or so, more and more people are coming to your food cart to purchase from you, and you begin to realize that you're going to run out of supply if you're not careful. And so you do the things that most people would do. You begin to go into a sort of survival mode, and you start cutting portions, and you start opening only on certain days. This has a sort of chilling effect on portions of the community. People start to get worried. People start to begin to do their own sort of hunkering down and holding what they have. More and more people from the community are sent out to locate some next new great place where they can get resources from. And about a day ago or so, the mayor of the community, a large, sort of bulbous man, human, came to you. His name is Bolfall. And Bolfall asked the Farsighters, those who had not been out already, if they would agree to go check out a portion of a cave system, a specific offshoot that had been found. And the concern is that if food isn't found soon or a fresh supply and stock isn't found, the community may have to move without a food source, which is something totally, wholly different. It puts way more stress on everyone because it means that they're not only moving to find food, but they're constantly having to spend all of those resources to do it. And like good Farseers, you have agreed as part of being part of the community that you're going to utilize your talents to do so. And so I'd like to know from each one of you, very simply, very in brief, which contact of yours you would have gone to secure something, a piece of equipment, perhaps resources for this specific delve that you'll do. So, Breen, if you would start us off, where would you go? Which contact would you go to?
You know what? I'm going to go, I think, to Bogrid, a small mushroom friend that I have and see if I can get any information through the Myceli network on if they have any details on this cave.
I think it's fair to say you can use your contacts rating plus, we'll say, a social attribute, depending upon how you want to approach them, for a skill roll to attempt to glean information therein. So I guess my question to you would be, how would Breen approach that? In which social attribute, how would she attempt to be sort of secretive and cunning about it, or would she be more, pleading with them, that sort of thing?
I think I'm going to go, Myceli is my dialectic, and one of my dialectic skills is empathy. And so I think I might try to appeal to the empathetic nature of the Myceli. We are all connected. We're all, part of the larger ecosystem, and we need to help each other out.
Okay. So in this system, it's a D10 based system. So you're going to roll 1d10 for not only the attributes, one per attribute dot, and then also for the contact rating.
Yeah. So would this be empathy and presence, possibly?
Empathy and presence, and then add in the contact level. And then it's 8 or above. And then if it's a 10, it's 2.
That is 4 successes.
Oof. Okay. So they don't offer you anything in the way of additional equipment. In the sense that, they're not loading you up with foodstuffs, or they're not giving you material. What you get is something pretty fantastic. So with 4 successes, you meet the bare minimum, which is 1. And what you get is a partial map of this space that someone has made.
And I would probably start to add that bit to my map as well. And compare it to the maps that I have, see if there's any other linkages that come up.
So there are 2. One that runs, they basically run in diametrically opposed angles. So your map did not have these 2 fissures. We'll say that they're left and right. And we would go from there.
Fantastic.
Okay. So Aldo, what contacts would you be going to for assistance before you leave town?
I'd absolutely be talking to Saj. And Saj is another hobgob, but he's more importantly my vegetable vendor. Or my veg vendor for our European friends.
Okay. So what are you going to ask in that regard?
Saj, we got a line from Bofal on a new spot where we might be able to find some new provisions, resources. And it's been tough, right? It's been tough getting stuff. So what should I be looking at? What should I be looking for? What's the most, I'm not really a harvester. I cook it. I'm usually not on the foraging side. What's the best things to look for and find in terms of a bountiful haul?
He groans real deeply, and he says, I heard about that line that Bofal's talking about. I heard there are big, fat pill bugs there. Tasty ones. He sort of clacks his really long fingernails together. You can see the grit and the dirt in them, and he uses the long fingernail to pick something out of his teeth. You hear his clothes jingle. He has little baubles that hang from his hat. They almost look like they're about the size of Christmas ornaments, little bulbed Christmas ornaments. And in each one, there's a different solution, because what Saj does is he's a mixer. He tends to, he's a bit of a connoisseur when it comes to alcohols. Get me a good fat pill bug and it sustain me for a few days. You might be able to get 4 or 5 of them. But if there's a nest, perhaps we could move the community closer. That's what you should be looking for. This community needs food.
It does, but can we move the nest closer to the community? Is that a possibility?
If you have the right sort of bug harvester, sure. You need somebody who knows about bugs.
I know someone who knows about bugs. A bug harvester, right? That'd be a person, not like a device. I could make a bug harvester if it's a device. I'm crafty like that.
Can you imagine sifting through the silt and rocks bugs with something in your hand? You could just scoop out what you needed. Yeah, you should think about that.
I can imagine that, yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that actually really clearly. You gave me a great idea, Saj. Thank you.
He pulls down off of his hat a bulb of something, some sort of glass mixture, and he hands it to you. He says, drink it up when you're getting close there. It'll help you sniff out what you need.
So this is like a pill bug finding solution. You just had that already. God, you love them pill bugs, I swear.
Well, they cook up well.
I might have to change my menu up if that's all that's available to me. It'll make Breen happy, I hope. She's still on me about the mushrooms.
You can't expect the Myceli to want you to cook her family.
Yeah, but it's different, right? There's foodstuff mushrooms and there's sentient mushrooms. You know that. I know that.
She just doesn't see it differently.
Hopefully it won't come up again. I don't want to have the baby talk with her again.
Good luck.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So, Nemia, to you.
So I'm going to talk to my contact named Chorlo. He is the dealer of small creatures, mostly the bugs that I acquire, so that way I can get familiar to something that's new so that I can talk to it properly. And, maybe summon it, maybe. A lot of people don't actually know about that yet.
Okay. So what are you asking of them?
I am asking him, do you have anything new for me? And, well, if he has any new bugs for me to look at, I'm going to be very excited about it.
He says, I do have a new bug for you to look at. It's very green.
I like green.
It's a chaos beetle. Are you familiar?
I don't think so.
He says, you know what a stag beetle looks like, right? Big pinchers.
Yeah.
This one's a little different. He tucks his fingers into basically for lack of a better term, a kennel, a box, a holder, some sort of leather-ish with clasp on the top of it. It looks like almost like a Chinese takeout box, except that the interior is leather rather than paper, and it's got a framework around it. And he sticks his finger in there and then retracts it immediately. Yeah, come here. And he reaches in again, and you see him pull out a bug. It's probably about 5 to 6 inches long, and it's got a real big, fat body. And then it has 2 enormous pinchers, and they grapple at the air in hopes of trying to hook another piece of his flesh, but failed to do so. He says, it can sniff out and hunt chaos all on its own.
That's useful.
I only got one.
Well, then maybe I'm going to have to use that one to find more. Because let's be honest, I have a particular set of talents.
Well, convince me. Why should I give you the only chaos bug I have?
Who was it that brought you that series of caterpillars that turned into those moths that you spent, I don't know, the last 5 years breeding and made enough profit to, I don't know, get as far as you want?
You bring this up every time. Those caterpillar bugs can only go so far. He sort of brushes away like the extra moths that are nearby.
Do you regret your decision?
I regret letting you into my home, but here we are. Fine, take it. Take the bug, but you better bring it back. Don't lose it.
I'll just bring you more of them. You can house them with all of the other creatures that I've brought you.
He puts it back in the container and then hands it to you. So that's sort of a brief look back at the characters and sort of how they got here. We'll now wind forward time a couple of days. In the past couple of days, the 3 of you have made your journey deeper into this fissure, this offshoot where you're hoping to be able to find a place for the community to make a rest at. And for you, Breen, you know that the 2 smaller fissures, the ones that will move left and right, are coming up soon, and you'll be forced to make a choice about which path you're going to take.
Does my map at all, can I use my map to help guide me?
Certainly, finding the initial pathway and then the fissures hasn't been hard. What's taken all the time is basically a whole bunch of up and down.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the most time-consuming part of it. Is you're in these hours of travel that you're doing, you're going up and you're going down and you're going up and you're going down, and so it's not a smooth grade at all. The 3 of you are having to pick your way in and around all these different rock formations, over stagnant puddles. And you're doing so in a place that is, well, it lacks light. It lacks all sorts of common things that we would think about when venturing over ground is, occasionally are there phosphorescent mushrooms and patches of fungi that are helpful? Certainly. They help guide your path personally, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your fellow companions are so warmed by them.
Now, so is part of the problem that it's that we're in kind of this dark and disorienting place?
Yes.
Okay.
Very easy to get turned around.
So I have soul sight.
Okay.
And when it's active, I'm unaffected by the darkness area effect until the end of the scene. And I can roll, and additional hits can be shared to enhance the sight with my bond mates.
Wonderful.
Is that something that I can use to help guide us through this dark passage, enhance my sight and hopefully the sight of my companions?
100%.
Okay.
So we're going to roll empathy and resolve when your target number is 8 for your D10s, and then we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try to tap into the chaos necessary for this, and I get nothing. I got no successes.
Yeah, it seems that the way the connection that you have just really isn't. It's not forming the proper way. You've done this before. You know that if you commune with what's here, the chaos that's here, just a little bit that you need for what you need to do, your eyes should be open. They should be ready to accept new and different knowledge. But the pathway never clears for you. Doubt creeps in.
Yeah, it's I should be able to see one of my far-sighting abilities. I should be able to see my vision should be clear here, but it's not. And that is alarming.
Mm-hmm. It's most certainly is very alarming. So I guess for Nimia and for Aldo, Breen comes to a stop, and she seems to try to douse a path, or she's doing something. She's looking at the map that she has in her hands, and then she's, I guess, trying to figure out. It looks visually, anyways, it looks like she's almost praying of a sort, and she stops. She pauses there, and in the dim light that you do have, there's a splash of worry across her face. Hard to tell, especially given the reptilian facial features, but the two of you have known her long enough. You especially, Aldo, have known her long enough to know what fear looks like. The fungus under her cloak seemed to spray new pollen, sort of this tuft of air that goes around her little particulates.
Everything all right, Breen? I saw you poofty.
Yeah, Aldo, I don't know. I mean, I have this map here, and I tried to reach out to see, and I couldn't. I tried to try to connect with the darkness and be able to see here, but I can't, and I'm not sure which way to take, and that's fine because I'm a cartographer, so whichever way we take is fine because I can map that part, but I can't guarantee that it'll be the right way.
So the map doesn't tell us where to go?
The map got us here, but then you see there's two directions here, and I'm not entirely sure which one we should take.
Well, I know what you're always telling me. Always, right's always left's always right's always left always right.
Left is right and right is wrong. I do always
left is right.
I do always say that.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. Maybe we just stick with what we know, which is left is right.
Because right is wrong, right?
Because right is wrong. Yes. Thanks, Aldo. I was a little lost there.
Nimi, what you think? Makes sense to you?
I mean, we could do that, or I could see if there's anything in here to talk to.
Oh, if there's like a bug?
Any kind of bug.
Oh. Yeah, you should definitely do that. You should, yeah.
Yeah. See if there's a pill bug.
But then if that doesn't work, then we default to left is right and right is wrong.
I heard there's some good pill bugs here, so if you could find any pill bugs, that's probably where we want to go. I got this potion that'll show me where the pill bugs are, but I don't know if we want to use it yet.
So I would like to use the bug talker. It allows me to speak the language of bugs so that I can talk to them, non-sapient insects, spiders, worms, etc. Though they can ignore me if they want to.
Okay, so Bug Talker is a 2-point synthesis. It doesn't appear like there's a role for this.
There is not.
So it's just a cool ability that you get to do.
I mean, we could figure out a way for me to roll for it if you really want. But...
No, I don't think you're under duress at this point. So I don't think it's necessary for you to make a roll. It sounds to me anyway like these are things that you get to do.
So I would like to get on the ground and reach my hand out and, kind of feel around until I find a spider or a pill bug or, whatever is handiest.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to talk to it and see if it happens to know which way we're supposed to go.
Okay. You lean down, you flatten out on this portion of the cavern floor, and you begin to reach out to the creatures, the small ones, the crawlers, the spinners. And very quickly, you begin to feel their eyes and senses upon you. The tiniest little movements to your left and right. 6, 8-legged creatures that slowly make their way, peer at you over a pair of rocks. You can tell there's a fat-bodied spider hanging out over this rock. Its multifaceted eyes stare back at you.
So I'm going to reach further out with my hand and beckon it. Come here.
It approaches slowly, one leg after another. It reaches out just very carefully to touch the tip of your finger with one of its long limbs, and then very quickly runs into the palm of your hand. You can feel each little tip-tap of all of the different legs hit the palm of your hand, and it looks up expectantly.
Do you know which way we're supposed to go?
You get a strange, almost confused look back from this spider. What is your intellect?
4.
So you're fairly intelligent. You think that you might be posing too complex of a question? Asking this spider which way are we supposed to go might be a little above its pay grade.
Yeah.
It climbs up your arm and then eventually into the sort of the inner crook of your elbow before making its way onto your shoulder.
I'll ask it to lead me to the rest, like where things are gathering right now, like in a larger group.
It runs back down your arm very swiftly and then uses a point on your wrist to basically extend a piece of webbing and so it can quickly drop to the floor. And then it is off, moving very quickly across the cavern floor.
And I will follow it at a brisk pace. Aldo, Breen, come on! As I'm off and about.
Off we go. Don't feel so bad, Breen. It happens. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, performance anxiety, 1 in 5, they say.
This has never happened to me before.
I understand. So following this spider, it's not just the only thing that's happening in this cavern, right? So as you make the turn, you turn left to head down this smaller fissure. The cave walls begin to hone in on each one of you, right? Passage tightens up and it gets tighter and tighter the deeper you get. The spider keeps going, climbs up on some of these walls, left and then right, trying to, find its own way to the center or where this fissure ends at. And so to continue your progress, I am going to ask for a skill roll.
Okay.
So let's have a survival roll along with, and I'll sort of give you the option of either survival and dexterity, or I think, depending upon how you want to go in here, athletics and might. And so I'll give you the athletics and might roll if you want to sort of force your way in, or if you want to be a little bit smoother about getting in, you can go survival and dexterity. Both hold a complication which you must overcome, right? So complications mean that you have to buy the complication off with successes to get all the way through, or you will succeed, but with perhaps some complication.
Okay, so I'm going to try for the Dex version of this.
Okay, so you're going to use dexterity and, I should say, you're going to use survival and dexterity.
Yes. That is 0 successes.
Okay, interesting. You were our first contestant in the Squeeze Between the Rocks challenge. And so your complication is, with a failure, is that you get stuck. This provides a further complication for your compatriots behind you, unfortunately. And so you've now made it harder for them to get through.
You did describe yourself as round.
That's true. That's true.
So I am also dexterity survival. I've rolled 1, 2, 3, 6 1d10s. I have a 10 and a 9, so I have 3 successes.
You do. So you have enough to buy off the complication, and you have enough to also succeed on the roll. And if memory serves correctly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Miranda, but there's still a success that sits out there, right?
Yep.
And so that could be given to another party member. You can buy that trick to lend that success to another party member if memory serves correctly.
Also, if we talked about momentum, Mike?
Not yet, but this is a perfect opportunity to talk about momentum.
It is like rewrites in the They Came From series. And we should have started with 3, I believe.
Yeah, you start with 3 momentum because there are 3 players at the table.
We each selected a means of generating momentum.
Correct. That's part of your ancestry in the world below.
And momentum will allow you to add an enhancement hit to an action for one basis. So an enhancement is an automatic success.
Right.
You can spend 2 points of momentum to change a failure into a success, or a success with a consequence if a complication is present. And you can spend 1 point of momentum, this is an important one, to describe a story element in the scene that is now fact. You can also spend 1 momentum to gain a piece of evidence. So at any point in time, any of us can spend a momentum to make an element in a scene now a fact.
I could spend a momentum to make this fissure that we're squeezing into the mouth of a creature. That's what you're telling me.
With Mike's approval.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Oh, you need approval. Okay, never mind. So if I get this right, I got 3 successes. I needed 1 success plus 1 success for the consequence to succeed. And I have an extra success that I could spend to help.
You can purchase a trick with that. It costs 2 hits to buy the assist trick, but you can add momentum to the pool with your extra hit.
Right. So basically, you have a success that hangs there and over and above what you need to succeed the current challenge that you're in. And you have 3 momentum in your pool. You could take 1 out of the momentum pool and thus have 2, and then give the assist to, Nemia.
Pull me out from the rock.
Correct.
No. I think I would like to do that if I can. And as I'm scurrying underneath Nemia's bulbous form, I pull out a squeeze bottle from my bandolier of useful spices, and I squirt down the sides of the fissure on either side of Nemia with olive oil. And then I continue on, but now there's a little bit of extra help for Nemia to get her way through.
So I will say this. So she will have a success to succeed. The complication will still, she succeeds, but with some complication. And the complication is that for the rest of this game session, she will smell seasoned and be slick with olive oil.
Oh, you're welcome.
So basically, you're ready to grill. I mean, in effect. Don't get any ideas, Aldo.
Yay?
Right. That leaves Breen to be able to get through this passageway.
Yeah. Me. Go ahead and roll. It is survival and dexterity. Just 2 successes.
Okay. So you're able to get through and, of course, buy off the complication of the, quote, tight space that you have to fit through.
Okay.
So it's a dex survival roll. So you slink your way. You're very agile as a reptile in that regard. You can move and contort your body as necessary, and you wind your way through that crack. Opening up out beyond the crack is an enormous, somewhat circular cave portion. This cave portion here is probably about 40 by 80. It's pretty large. You're able to see some of it through the phosphorescent fungi that exist in a semicircular ring around the backside of it. There are these bands of fungus that exist here that give off yellows and greens and even some lighter purples. For you, Breen, this feels like an amazing trove of fungus. Some of these you've never seen before. And you can tell you're seeing definitely new species. There is, again, this cavern has a bowl shape to it. And so when you get down off of when you look down off of this, I guess, walkway, it's the best, probably the best term that you could find out. You end at this walkway after the crevice, and then that bowl dips pretty deep.
Are the mushroom, the mycelium, the fungus up where we are on this walkway, or are they kind of down below in this bowl?
They're actually a little bit of both. So some of them ring the top, but the brightest stuff is down in the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like from above, you see that there does seem to be a semi-steady water drip that's going on. So the cavern is fairly moist. The air in here is a little bit humid. And then there are signs also of dropping moisture. And so this looks like an amazingly ideal place for a potential community because the water could be harnessed and refined.
Ooh, we gonna live with the mushrooms though, which is fine for me, but some people are really weird about that. And I begin to go around and introduce myself to the different fungi that are around me, and I start to hi, I'm Breen. It's a pleasure to meet you. And even if they don't speak back to me directly, vocally, I move on to the next one. Hi, hello, my name is Breen. And I go through, it's a pleasure to meet you all. We're out here searching for a new food source, not you, obviously, or perhaps a place to move our settlement, which is closer to a food source. But they're really struggling, and I appreciate all of your assistance. Thank you.
Fantastic. So while that's going on, Nemia, your spider friend has gotten to the edge of this lip, this walkway, and begins, I guess, for lack of a better term, pointing with a couple of its long, spindly spider legs into this bowl.
Okay. So if I look down there, can I see a whole mess of bugs down there?
So there's an awful lot of mycelia down there and some other fungi that are down there that give some light to it. And as you stare down there into this bowl, you realize that does give backlighting to the bugs that are moving down there. And there are some beetles and there are some spiders in certain spaces. And there's also these, I guess I would want to say pill bugs, but they're fairly thick pill bugs. They're probably about as big as, we'll say, a potato. And they seem to be moving very slowly in and out of this space. Some of them are, you think, eating some of the fungi that are down there. Again, remember, it's a very large space. It's not a small space. And it's the cavern itself is deep as well. So there's a lot you can't see, but you can imagine.
Can I use, as I see Nemia kind of peering over this edge here, I would like to look around, perhaps with a survival check, for something that I can use to help us climb down there, whether it is a rope that has been left here by a long-lost explorer, or some lichen that is grown on the wall that I can pull off and be rope-like, something, or even if it's just handholds on the side to drop down.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable for you to search for something like that.
Okay, so I have the thesis One Man's Trash, which is, it says there's not a debris pile in the strata I haven't found something valuable in. And whenever I delve into, it says ruins, I don't know if it'll apply to this, I get a +2 enhancement to find something of value in our present stratum.
Yeah, I would be happy to give you that +2 bonus. I think if you do, when you do the search, provided you're successful, you'll get a little bit more information about this cavern.
So this is, I'm assuming survival, and then what attribute would you like me to use, Mike?
I'd take cunning on this for sure,
Okay.
but I would give you cunning or intellect for this roll.
So with my +2 enhancements, which are automatic successes,
Yep.
I have 7.
That's an awful lot. We'll just say that the base difficulty for this, because I think that's important to out here, the base difficulty is 1.
Okay.
And so there is no complication with this because really it's just a visual finding a way down there. And so you have a fair amount of additional successes that you've built up.
Yes.
Is there something that you would like to do with them or the extras that you would like to buy?
So I would like to dump them all back into momentum, baby.
Well, I mean, you're going to cap at 3, right?
Yes, I would like to dump 3 back into momentum, baby.
Okay. So you do find a pathway to get down there, and it's, well, kind of sort of perfect for you. You find a crack that runs down from this walk path here down into the bowl. And there are a series of really thick, almost bushy lichen that run down this crack. And you realize why they're so thick. And that is they are holding on to bits and portions in the wood here. Bits and portions here in this crack have been filled with bones that sort of run down this specific space. They would make fantastic handholds. You'd really be able to get your grips into them, and you can hear them in your ears. You can hear this lichen saying, hey, if you need to get down there, we're perfect for that, like in effect.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Hey, I found a way down into the bowl here. My buddies are going to help us out.
Yeah, nope, no problem.
Are we going down there, Nemia? Are we waiting for Breen to come back up? Maybe she'll come back up.
Well, yeah, she probably will, but I want to get down there. It looks like maybe there's something new. And there's that little excitement in my voice, and I'm almost haphazardly making my way down, following Breen, because I want to get down there and see maybe what's down there.
All right, Breen. So you're going to take your first steps, grab onto your friendly fungus, and head down?
Absolutely. If we are exploring this cave for a possible move for our settlement or just a new food source, then I think it's I owe it to them to explore further.
Okay. So you begin to head down. The other two of you watch Breen and her, reptile-like claws dig into some of this flora, I guess, and just weave her way down. You can hear the clack of her talons on the bones as she grabs onto some of the bone handholds. There's little clicks. And the descent is fairly simple with the handholds. It's probably about 20 feet or so. It curves at the bottom until it reaches a somewhat smooth floor. And now you're down there.
It seems safe. Can I listen to see if I hear any? I know there's bugs down here. I know there's all sorts of fungi. I want to listen to see if I can hear anything bigger than a bug moving about.
Oh, sure. Certainly. I'm going to say in this case, it's a survival roll.
Okay.
So survival cunning.
So with my keen senses thesis, 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 1 enhancement. So 5 successes.
Ooh, wow. You get to the floor of this cavern and you begin to move around a little bit, and then you stop. So many of these different bugs are here. It's not just the pill bugs, it's not just the beetles, but some of these bugs are big. Some of them are probably a good 12, 14 inches long. And when they move around, you can tell that they're going back and forth to places. And that sort of, your mind begins to accelerate around the thought, like, okay, so they're going from one place deeper into this cavern space, and they're coming back, and then they're, putting whatever detritus that they've collected over here into their hive or into their home. Where are they going? And when you ask that question of yourself, where are they going? The whole cavern seems to breathe. There's air that comes rushing in to the space and then slowly exhales back out.
Breathes is a very interesting way of describing a draft. It's very specific. Hey, do you guys want to come down here? Because this seems bigger. I mean, use the word bigger than just this cavern. Nimi, you might want to get down here. There's massive bugs at like 12, 14 inches.
Can I tell if Breen is nervous?
Breen is definitely nervous.
I don't think Breen is hiding that at all.
No.
Okay. So before I go down there, I would actually like to use a sorcery that I have called Twist of Fate.
Okay.
So what that does is it gives me a horrible, haunting vision of the future. But the upside of that is that it also gives me enough of the future that if I can recognize the situation in time, I can avert whatever bad thing is going to happen.
I see. Okay. Empathy plus cunning then.
And I also get to roll it twice and take the higher result total numbers.
Sounds good to me. Go ahead and roll it.
Okay, my highest total was 4.
You get a vision of the bowl from a different perspective. You are standing down in the bowl, and the vision you get are a pair of taloned hands that are clawing at the bowl, trying to scrape their way out of the bowl. You can tell that these are definitely Breen's forearms. And you even smell the scent of freshly puffed fungi from underneath her cloak. Okay,
so with that, I'm actually going to go down into the bottom of the bowl a little faster. Like, I'm going to go essentially as fast as I can without falling off. So I can get to her faster.
And I'm following.
Okay. The three of you get down there. You're still hearing that wind move around, Breen. And it's a little unsettling. And I think the most unsettling part for you is that there's a portion ahead of this bowl, this long bowl portion of the cavern, that there is no fungi growing over there. So there is no light. Like, it seems to stop at this portion. There's also nothing overhead in that space that lends any light.
Oh, well, if there's something down here that is making like that uninhabitable, by the like fungi grow everywhere. I mean, very prolific. So it's strange to me that it sounds like there may be something like poison or bad air or something there that is stopping them from growing. And if we are going to settle here or to live in harmony here, I'm going to have to investigate what that is. Like we don't want it to spread. What if all the fungi get sick? Like, I need to figure out what that is.
Okay. Forging ahead then?
Absolutely.
Breen, hold up. And I'm going to take out the equivalent of my canary, quote unquote, and it's a giant pill bug. And I'm going to send it into this place with no light.
Oh, the classic pill bug in the coal mine, yeah.
And, essentially ask it to search.
Okay. So it moves forward, assumably that you're coaxing it in that direction. And it sort of gets in line with all of these other bugs that are moving into and out of the space and into and out of the space. And you can watch them for a little while at least. And then something attached to your hip begins to jostle back and forth, like a rattle. The caged bug that you were given begins to rattle back and forth.
I'm going to try to talk to this bug.
Oh, okay. You attempt to connect to that bug, and it doesn't take more than a few moments before you get the immediate impression from the clacking and the almost chittering that this bug is doing now. And it says in a strong and assertive mental tone, run, 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 run.
Okay, so I'm sorry, little guy. I'm going to abandon the pill bug. And we need to get out of here. And I'm going to shove against Breen and shove against Aldo and push them back up towards the path.
You turn to put your hands on Breen, and at the end of this darkened space, you hear something akin to a growl that comes from this space. It is heavy and resonant, and it echoes along the cavern walls. And a pop of red light begins to emanate from that section. It's thin. It's a pair of these tiny red lights that turn on. And then 2 more and 4 more and 10 more. As the entire end of the expanse becomes filled with these red lights. And something big moves closer.
So the bugs that are on the bigger side in this cavern, are they dangerous? Could they be dangerous?
Could they be dangerous? Probably not. They're mostly, they're mostly scavengers.
Yeah, like a lot of bugs are.
Yeah.
But I have spiders in this cave, and spiders are hunters.
Yep.
So I'm actually going to use my Swarm's Call.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to essentially summon all the spiders I can to essentially descend upon this thing, clouding its vision, biting it, whatever they need to do to slow it down. And because I have Bug Talker, this also allows me to move them, which is what allows them to attach more fully instead of just coming to me and sitting in one place.
Okay. While this is going on, Aldo, what are you doing as Nemia starts telling people to run, and then is getting ready to commune with the spiders who are down here? You see all these eyes light up at the end of the hallway.
Breen, holy shit, is that a giant? I think that's a giant spider. I'm going to pull my slingshot out from my belt. Look at all those eyes. It's breathing. It's breathing at us. And I'm going to use my smoke bomb.
Ooh, okay.
Once per session, I can make a simple athletics, larceny, or ranged combat action to detonate a smoke bomb as a simple action, imparting a moderate complication of low visibility to anyone trying to hit you from any distance other than close range. And if unresolved, this complication imparts the dazed status effect and suffocating area effect. I'm going to try and lob that smoke bomb with me. And I pull out a little glass globe out of my spice bandolier and pull it back. And I'm going to try and have that smoke bomb go off where those eyes are looking at us to try and block our way as we get the heck out of here.
Yeah, sounds great. Go for it.
I'm going to make a ranged combat attack. Is that dexterity ranged?
I think that's pretty reasonable, yeah.
6 successes.
Okay, so yeah, it certainly goes in this place that it needs to go. And then that would give you... I would say that it's going to take you more than a single success for this to work how you want it to. And that's because the creature you're placing it against has what we would call advantage on certain abilities, which means you have to overcome that advantage. That said, you've got more than enough successes to do that. And I will say that you net 3 from your 6.
Get out, get out, get out while we got some cover. And I'm going to run back towards the wall and I'm going to try and escape.
Okay. So for you, Breen, things are not so simple. And that is because as this creature comes forward, you realize what it is. And it is a contemptible creature. One that you're familiar with in your travels, at least the style of it. But this one is grown to strange and rather dangerous proportions. So among all the abominations here in the world below, many are churned out, but Churnians themselves are generally some of the worst because they have the ability to draw on chaos itself and adjust as needed to what their quarry or prey might do to them. Their drives are very simple. They're there to survive and feed and to tear other creatures apart. They are pure blight. And that is the reason at this portion of, this bowl at the cavern why nothing is growing there. And it's because they have blighted the area with its presence. In fact, they've eaten so much of the resources at that portion of the cave, they have grown to this gross, bulbous size. They have spawned several sets of eyes to be able to seek and reach out other food. And you also know that they tend to fight and slap with the multi-tentacles that they have. They're essentially a big fat meatball with a bunch of tentacles around it with eyes. So I want you to envision that. And as you do so, you become overcome with the purpose that you stated before, which is this cavern can be cleansed and could be used. It's more than large enough for your community, but this must be excised.
Oh, I'm absolutely there with you on that. Gul'dan wills it to be that way. We absolutely need to, we need a place for food. Like, we need a better source of food, but also this thing needs to be gone. And so I am going to shout back to Aldo and Nimia, we can't run. We have to stand our ground and fight. This thing is a blight. It's a parasite, and it has to die. Come back and fight. Stand your ground with me, and I will look for whatever I can around me to grab and chuck at this thing because I took maps as an item and not a weapon.
You reach out and you find a probably distressed femur that you can probably utilize. And throwing is likely going to be your biggest and best portion of this, because this thing can definitely reach you with its tentacles, which are generally armed with teeth. And you also know that Churnians tend to carry some ability to electrify and thus paralyze their opponents.
Yeah. And it's got a lot of arms, it's got a lot of eyes, so that's a lot of targets. So I want to, grab this femur and chuck it tomahawk style to try to nail this thing in an eye.
I love it. I think you should absolutely do that.
Okay.
It's ranged combat for sure.
Yep.
So we'll say that it's, I'll give you the choice of dexterity versus cunning.
Yeah, I'll do cunning, because I'm probably far enough away that it's not dexterity anymore.
Go for it.
That is 3 successes.
Okay, so you have done a point of damage to it. So its defense is 2.
Okay, so its defense is 2. So 2 would hit it, and then I have 1 extra. So here's what I want to do. I want to take that 1 success, and then I want to actually use my extra hit to create a complication for the target.
Okay.
And since it's 1, it's a minor complication, but I imagine I hit it in the eyes like I was going for, and hopefully make it more difficult to hit myself or my companions.
Okay, so previously Aldo created a cloud
Mm-hmm.
which would serve as a complication for the attacking target. And then you're creating another one so that they have 2 complications to overcome.
Yep.
Nemia speaking to spiders. And then I suppose we should probably get a genuine initiative roll. So to determine our initiative, we're going to have you roll athletics and cunning or empathy and dexterity.
I have 4 successes, Mike, for my initiative.
Eldo, the dexterously cunning, has 7 successes.
That's a lot.
I also have 7 successes.
That is also a lot. Let's see here. I'm going to just take it right to left. So Aldo, it's clear that Breen threw this, like, you think shaft of bone, perhaps maybe it's a leg or an arm of a former adventurer, and she seems to have connected with the face meat of this creature. What are you doing now that the smoke is down and the battle is joined?
Oh, for chaos sake, Breen, we could do this from above where it's safer. Like, out of the thing's lair. You never fight the thing in its own lair, Breen. But I will reach down and grab one of... You said this place is full of bones, and hopefully there's sort of a smallish skull or something, and fit it into the cup of my slingshot and pull that back. And I will fire. And I have improvised weaponry.
Okay.
As a thesis, so my improvised weapons, the skull, I think gives me a +1 enhancement to fighting with items not typically used as weapons, such as stalagmites, steaming geysers, or skulls, if you'll allow that. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And I also have rapid shot. You've cultivated a proficiency with ranged weapons to enable you to fire repeatedly in the blink of an eye. So I can attack with one type of ranged weapon twice as a simple action, making a separate roll for each attack. So in my head, these 2 bones go flinging out of the slingshot through the smoke cloud, hopefully to impale whatever this thing is. I still have no idea, and take it out.
Okay. Go for it.
And it's 8 or greater, is it a success?
That is correct in Story Path.
First one is 3 successes. Not great.
Okay.
Second one is 4 successes.
Okay.
Wasted all those big shots on initiative.
Well, you definitely do some damage to it. You sort of just pick up and grab anything you can get your hands on and start chucking it at this creature. So, Nemia.
So I carry a longbow with me as a precautionary measure. I don't know what I'm ever going to come up against. So I'm going to draw that, and I have a skill called Patient Shot. And basically what that does is that I can take a simple action to aim, and it gives me a +1 advantage.
Okay, so you're going to aim and then take your advantage and fire, or is that...
Yes. Basically, it'll give me a +1 power advantage.
Oh, okay, sure.
So ranged plus what? Dex, probably?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. That is 5 successes.
Okay, wow. Yeah, so you line up a shot here near the space of near that space in the cavern where you had been waiting for your compatriots to actually flee like you told them to. And instead, since it seems that Breen's not going to give this one up, you fire into this creature. There's a meaty thwack when the arrow hits home. It roars in a terrible and fierce, almost sort of flapping sound. It sounds like its mouth is flapping open. Hear the gums smacking. And that will bring us to Breen's action.
Breen is once again going to reach around on the ground around her and try to find something. I'm not running for reasons that something I want to use later, and try to peg this thing again.
Okay. So proceed with your pegging.
Can do. I have no successes.
Oh, okay. So you failed to peg, but that said, it's finally going to get its action. And because all sorts of things have happened to this since this thing even got a chance to react and get out, it is going to reach out and attempt to touch you with its various tentacles, Breen.
Perfect.
You are the person of the hour, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some complications to overcome.
Yes, and since it is attacking me, I set the difficulty by rolling my defensive action, which is just stamina.
Okay, go ahead.
Of which I rolled a 10, so that's 2 successes, so it'll take 3 for to hit me then.
Yeah, I think there are 2 standing complications against it, given that you're in you will be in close range for this attack because its tentacles move quite a bit. Okay, so it's got a lot to overcome here. Luckily, it has an enhancement automatically, which is called Violence.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think you're getting a hit on this one.
That is absolutely fine.
So I have 7 successes.
Okay.
It takes me 5 of them to hit you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that carries over 2 damage.
Okay, so all of Bloodied would be filled in then, the 2 boxes. Okay. But actions using a path skill gain 1 dice at this point, so for me, so that's nice.
That they do. Okay, so
my thought was, my intention, if this thing goes to kill me, and it's very lethal, is to use I have a detachable limb, so that I can just lose a limb and flee. But it costs me a whole injury level, which is why I'm in the fray, because I'm planning on eventually possibly just losing a limb and running away.
Because you're a lizard, and there's lots of lizards that can regenerate.
Yes, and it will regenerate, but
it won't look as nice.
So, top of the round, and that will be Aldo.
Breen, come on, I don't know what your game is, but get your poofing ass back here. Jesus, there's no need for this. And there's no more skulls around me, so I reach into my bag and I pull out a couple onions and I put them into the cup of the slingshot and let it fly. Foosh, foosh. I'm going to say, because it doesn't seem fair, these are not improvised. These are onions. These are common missile weapons within a slingshot. But my slingshot also does have the stunning tag. And while I have bejeweled it, and it is quite something to look at with its glistening rhinestones and gemstones along the cup of the slingshot, I also wonder if it might impart a little bit of stunning to this creature as I fire.
Well, that's a good question.
Well, my first shot, I have 1 single success, which I don't think does anything against this thing.
It certainly does not.
Second shot, 7 successes.
Okay, so you'll overcome the creature's armor, and damage would normally be 1?
And then you can buy the stunned with 2 of those hits, and that offers a moderate complication.
I would like to do that. And with the 3 left over, I'd like to do an extra damage.
Okay, you wound it. It is still up, and that will bring us to Nemia.
So I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to aim. I'm going to fire, aiming for, the eyeballs. I'm probably going to, like I did last time, I'm sure I shot through a bunch of spiders in the process of this.
Certainly.
They'll fight. They'll forgive me. Though.
I'm sure that they will.
Only 3 successes.
So that's a hit. You're not going to be able to do much more than just hit it. And I think that's just a single damage, isn't it?
So does that still allow me combat tricks?
So combat tricks are bought with additional successes, right? So there's a base point, a number of hits it takes to hit and affect this creature. And then when you get more successes, that's how you buy tricks. That's how you buy the extras.
Oh, right. So because it has 2 to overcome, right?
Correct.
Okay, then yeah, it should just be 1. It should just be 1.
Okay, great. And that brings us to Breen.
Oh boy. I'm gonna plead a case. Okay, maybe I can spend some momentum for this.
Ooh.
That some of the mycelium that I have identified in this cavern emit some poisonous spores. And what I would like to do is try to gather up some of them and essentially poof, as I've been doing a lot of poofing, get some billows going with some mycelium and try to get a poison spray on this thing.
I love that. That sounds fantastic.
So I'd like to, spend a momentum to make that a fact that they are here, and then whatever you need me to roll for me to complete that action.
I'm going to say cunning survival.
Okay. 5 successes.
So the normal 2 to overcome the defense, and then that leaves you with 3. And so are you buying...
I will absolutely buy extra damage if I have the extra 3, yeah.
Okay. So you gather up a bunch of this fungi at the floor, at your feet. The last sort of vestiges that are nearby before the creature has gotten too close to it. And you can hear them accepting their fate as best as can be expected from Moss. You know that by gathering them up and essentially forcing them to give off their breeding pollinator portion, you are essentially extinguishing their life. You gather them up in your hands and you squeeze as hard as you can, and all sorts of this pollen eject out of the top of them. And it coats the front of this creature. And you can see the tentacles begin trying to scrape away at this terrible, nasty fungi that you've sprayed all over it. And unfortunately, because the creature is so aggressive and it's just naturally feral, it can only think of one thing, and that is to do everything as hard and as fast as it possibly can. And in its rage, it shreds its own face and collapses with a meaty thwap onto the cavern floor.
Guys, I think we did it. I think we got it.
And I'm halfway up the side, and I look back. That's great news, Breen. Yeah, look at that. Oh, geez. Okay, and start climbing back. And I was gonna get some elevation. It's better to. Oh no, I was running. I was gonna run away. I thought you were gonna die, and I didn't want to die. And if everyone's in control, they could do their own thing. I was running away. But we did it. Is this the food? Is this gonna? I don't know if this is really what the mayor wanted.
No, it's okay. I would just say, for Breen's knowledge, this is not food. This is something to be burned.
Yeah, no, we absolutely can't eat this, but there's all those bugs here, and maybe we could move the settlement here, and we could live with all of the fungi and be in harmony, and also eat some bugs, and so we have like a new food source. But all these bugs,
and there's mushrooms too. I see. There's a lot of mushrooms down here.
Those mushrooms gave their lives for us to live.
So I want to talk to the bugs and tell them that they currently have a food source because they're scavengers.
Mm-hmm.
So they can eat the thing we killed.
Yeah, absolutely. So the more epilogue to this portion of the story is that in the coming days, the group of this Farseer group reports back to their community that they found a new place and that it'll only need a little bit of alteration as far as getting into and out, but it has an extremely defensible position, and it seems that there's only a couple ways in and out. You find that the water that is above could likely be tapped for a source of relatively clean water, as clean as things seem to get down here. There is an awful lot of detritus and garbage, and the great part about that is that the community could use it to help build homes and spaces and reuse. Nothing is wasted here. Things are reused because nothing new is made. And so it takes a couple of days to really get the mayor into agreement, especially when it comes to your ask, Breen, which is basically like, hey, listen, this portion of the cave wall is a no-go zone for people who are looking to, eat or forage for fungi. These are the people that have helped protect and set up this space so we can have it. As you said, they gave their lives to ensure that you could have some sort of place to stay. It's pretty hard to convince the mayor of this, but you end up doing so, in only that they also find that there is a portion of the cavern deeper within where there's running water. And it looks like several of the young community members are setting up some sort of fishing area to catch fish, bugs, eels, and it becomes a great source for not only the community, but obviously Aldo's cart has the ability to extend its protein choices. That said, we hope you've enjoyed our little jaunt through the world below. We hope you're backing the Kickstarter as it goes live. And if not, make sure that you check out what the Onyx Path has to offer. And let us know in the comments what you thought of our adventure. And if you'd like to see us play a little bit more of the world below on the Old Ways. So thank you again. And thank you to our players at the table. And we'll see you in the next adventure.